Fran Townsend is here. She's a CBS News senior national security analyst and a former Homeland Security advisor for President George W. Bush. The president has been tweeting this morning. His focus is immigration. We know that the suspect came in on a lottery system, and it's called a lottery system because that's exactly what it is. You put your name in, you cross your fingers, and every year a certain number of citizens, their names are pulled out of a hat. They are, of course, reviewed and vetted, and they are given a visa to come to this country. So he's slamming that visa. But you've been in contact with the White House. What's going on there?
So this particular program is the diversity lottery. It gives him a greater chance given where he's from, Uzbekistan. Let's step back for a second. In Uzbekistan, they've long had an extremist problem. Going back to 1998, the Islamic movement of Uzbekistan affiliated with Al-Qaeda. 2015, they changed their affiliation to ISIS. This attack by the ISIS playbook, right? ISIS had issued a call: take a truck or a car, ram people, get out, leave a note, then brandish either a gun or a knife. Textbook. This guy comes in on this diversity lottery program. This morning, the top priority for them has got to be, under this diversity lottery program, he can then sponsor others to come in. Did he sponsor others? Who did he sponsor? Were they good guys or bad guys? And you bet that is the first priority this morning. At the White House, you asked me the question, the the Homeland Security Council principals will meet. Tom Bossert will chair that meeting, the president's Homeland Security advisor. And then later this morning, they'll brief the president. One of the challenges for investigators, we've heard this, that he came up in an unrelated investigation. Well, here's the problem. If you come in on this sort of a visa and become a legal permanent resident, you are treated for legal purposes as a U.S. citizen. So he had all sorts of protections. And so when the president goes on a rant about extreme vetting, you come in on this program, you get the privileges and rights of an American. And so it's really important we understand who it is coming in. And I think it's why he's so focused on this extreme vetting.
That is very, very interesting. So that's what they're going to look at. They're going to look at where he came from, what sort of information he submitted in order to be a part of this visa program. And they're going to be tracking his path to radicalization, trying to figure it out if that's what happened here. Take me through the steps. What are some of the other things they'll be looking at?
So this morning they're looking, we understand they're doing searches of residences in New Jersey, in Florida, of a car he left behind at the truck rental place. They're going to look at all of this. They'll especially look for electronic media, phones, computers. Did he remain in contact?
Right.
What websites did he visit? And you don't know, right? His radicalization may go back the 7 years back in Uzbekistan, and they're going to try to understand that. But we ought to be cautious about calling this a lone wolf, because right now it very well may not be. This could easily be an international terrorism case.
Do you like or not like that phrase, lone wolf?
I dislike it because I think in some ways it minimizes both the impact and the effort that the U.S. government puts against it. It sounds like an aberration, like a one-off, a lone wolf. It doesn't have that feel of seriousness to it. And it requires a tremendous effort, even if it was a lone wolf, on the part of law enforcement. Look, law enforcement here has done an extraordinary job, from the NYPD to the FBI, but this is just for them. This is the beginning of the investigation. This is not the end of it.
And I know people sort of use lone wolf to differentiate between maybe sort of a more coordinated effort, like what we saw with the Charlie Hebdo attack, where there were multiple things happening at the same time. But the truth of the matter is, the way these sort of attacks are unfolding, there is a certain loose coordination that is required. Often these guys are tapping into someone online or a website. We saw that, ISIS basically put out a play-by-play checklist of how to do this, and he followed the script almost exactly. So, yeah, they may be operating alone, but they're also, at the same time, operating within or in coordination with a greater organization.
That's exactly right. And look, it's not an accident. We always, when I was in the White House, worried about holidays. Halloween was not a particular concern, but we have large public gatherings like the parade in Greenwich Village. And so there's always large public gatherings that you worry about. And this guy, it was 5 blocks from the World Trade Center. Do I think that was an accident? Absolutely not. And so this has
symbolic.
Right, it's symbolic. It has the feel of greater coordination, and that's why. Did he sponsor others to come into the country?
I want to get back around to that, actually.
That's exactly right. And are they bad guys? Is there the potential for follow-on attacks? I think we don't We and law enforcement don't know that. It's a huge priority for them. But the fact that he was a legal permanent resident presents legal challenges to understanding that quickly.
Yeah, and so people might not sort of understand the different visas that you can, we call it a visa that he came here for, but most people who get a visa cannot sponsor others to come. You need to be a citizen in order to sponsor. And when the president whatever you think about the immigration policy, when the president talks about merit-based immigration policies, he means that the way the immigration policy works now is typically there's a heavier weight given to familial connections.
We call it chain migration. Migration. I come in, I can bring my brother and my sister and my cousin. And what he's saying is that's not the way we ought to do this. It ought to be, we need technology workers, we need doctors, we need nuclear scientists. Give those people, based on the merit of what they bring, priority, as opposed to this chain migration process.
Right. And you know, people can argue as well that the idea is to keep families together, and I think that was part of the thinking with the philosophy the way it is now, that that a husband should be able to bring his wife and his children, you can keep the family together. But sometimes what we do see, especially in some of these terror situations, the more coordinated ones, the groups, is that you have people who are related. You have cousins who know each other, and they're all sort of in this same group. They're 20-something men, some say disenfranchised, not feeling connected to the greater society, and so they're looking for something to connect to.
That's right. I mean, his affiliations, both here in the United States and overseas, will tell us a lot about the story, right? And what we ought to look for. In fairness to the NYPD, after the Nice Promenade attack, after the German Christmas market, they reached out to 148 truck rental companies. They did it twice after that. They've established these relationships and talked to them about what to look for and what to report to them. And so it's not for lack of effort. It's hard, and it's sort of heartbreaking for all the effort that somebody, it's just so, cars are ubiquitous, trucks are ubiquitous. It's so easy if someone makes up their mind to do that, and that's why it's such an attractive method of operation for the terrorists.
You know, when you said that, the first thing that I thought was, when we talk about the war on terror, the front line when it comes to the war on terror is everywhere, really.
Right. That's right.
Even at a trucking company.
Yes.
So we were talking a little bit earlier about sort of following the breadcrumbs electronically, and whether or not some of these web companies need to crack down. What's your take on this? Should Google, should Facebook, should Twitter be doing more to stop the flow of information? Or if they stop the flow of information, are they also getting in the way of law enforcement tracking these guys?
Well, as you point out, it's a double-edged sword, right? But they do have a responsibility. I'm the president of the Counter Extremism Project. We've put a tremendous amount of pressure on the social media companies to take responsibility for denying them access to the communications.
Right. Okay, Fran, I know you got to go. You are a woman in high demand because of your expertise. Thank you so much for stopping by.